Today I'm going to show you how to build Anakin's lightsaber from Attack of the Clones. More specifically, the Knight AS2 from the Saber Armory, using their Chassis DIY Kit. Before we get started, if you found this video to be helpful, please make sure to like and subscribe. And also, if you're interested in commissioning a lightsaber build from me, feel free to contact me on Instagram or through my website, averycastillo.com. And now, let's get started with the video. Let's unbox Anakin's lightsaber from Attack of the Clones. This hilt in particular holds a special place in my heart. When I was a kid, I had the plastic light-up version of this hilt, and it was my absolute favorite lightsaber. So being able to hold and work on one that's all metal and super close to the real movie prop is always really special. Now, this particular hilt is known as the Knight AS2, sold by the Saber Armory. Inside the box, we have the electronic parts for the build, a KR Sabers Challenge coin, and of course, the hilt itself. As far as I know, this is one of the most accurate replicas for Anakin's Episode 2 lightsaber. There are one or two that may be better, but this is one of the most readily available and install friendly. Absolutely breathtaking. Let's take a closer look. And it's definitely a fingerprint magnet. Now let's go over all the parts you need to bring this to life. We're doing the Chassis install, which means we'll be using this basic plastic chassis. For the NeoPixel connector, we have the NPXL with long pins and lens cover, an LED pixel PCB for the red and green greeblies on the hilt, a high amp kill switch, the positive and negative battery tabs, a 28mm bass speaker, an 18650 lithium-ion battery, and finally, the soundboard. We'll be using a CFX for this build. Now let's begin the install. Starting with the NeoPixel connector, we get to skip right past soldering the pins since this one came pre-made. So we just have to pre-solder the pads for our wires and get those attached. A 30 gauge data, two 24 gauge negatives, and a 22 gauge positive. Now to wire up the LED PCB. I wired it wrong on camera here, but keep in mind VCC is positive, and then we have the data in, and finally GND is ground, or negative. Next is the button PCB. This one is really easy. You just need a wire for each button, and then a shared, common, ground. These can be small wires. I use 30 gauge mostly. Now for the speaker. Once again, this one is super simple. Positive and negative don't really matter here, just make sure each side goes to its own pad on the soundboard. Also, make sure to protect those solder joints with heat shrink or some sort of insulation. Next up, we have the battery tabs. Remember, always use your largest wire size for the power, which will be 22 gauge. Now we can start putting things in the chassis. Here's the negative tab, and we'll put the positive here. To secure them in place, you'll need to glue them. I either use E6000 or Loctite, but I prefer E6000 when I have the time. For the speaker, I always use Loctite, and put small dabs on these black tabs. Be careful not to use too much where it'll get into the speaker. Next, we'll glue in the LED PCB. Just a couple dabs of Loctite is all you really need. Now for the button PCB, you may need to file down the sides a bit to get it to fit. Once you've tested that it fits, you can move on to gluing it. Next up is the NeoPixel connector, which I've attached another positive to. Once that's done, you can either glue in the connector or leave it as press fit until you know everything works. Now for the kill switch. This is where the new positive wire I attached to the NeoPixel connector goes. There's no one way to do this, but you can either have all of your positives go to the battery tab or to the NeoPixel connector. Now it's time to install the final part, the soundboard. I'm just going to blast through the process here for the video, but basically, familiarize yourself with the wiring diagrams in your soundboard's manual. Always refer to your manual. And with that, we now have a fully installed chassis for our Anakin Episode 2 lightsaber. Make sure to stop and admire all the work you've just done. And now, after you've set up your SD card, you can turn it on and enjoy the finished product. Let's put it in the hilt and check out how everything works. For now I have the red and green accents blinking, but in the future I'll probably just have them off until I turn on the blade. Let's ignite the saber and give it a test. Everything is working perfectly. Now it's time to put in a blade. With this hilt, it's super easy since it has a brass thumb screw for the blade retention. As for the blade size, it takes a 7/8 inch diameter blade. Now let's sit back and check out some of the fonts, colors, and blade profiles I have set up. And that is how you install the Knight AS2 using the Eco Chassis DIY Kit. Thank you all so much for watching. I know I skipped over a few things like the SD card setup, the wiring of the soundboard, general management of wires and stuff, but hopefully this is enough to get you through the process. Let me know if this helps, and if you have any questions, feel free to message me on Instagram or through my website, averycastillo.com, and I'll help you as much as I can. Oh, and also, if you want to send your completed builds to me, I'd love to see them as well. Anyways, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.